So there's nature in a more like hidden sense when you're just in a very like man-made like city scenario, but then there's the like unfettered nature itself. So when you're talking about like being at sea and that you're suddenly at like the mercy of the waves, let's say, that you can be in a really secure type of ship, but ultimately then there's some type of like greater possibility for like risk involved, or if you're just
like a Jack London kind of nature where nature is like cruel, or
so
not cruel, but like
I think
very strong, very forceful. It's not always under our control.
I think that once you are then experiencing nature like to the extreme, or just like absolutely wild nature, it then becomes apparent that we don't have hardly any control over nature for what it can like fully do, which can either lead people to say, oh, nature is like the ultimate thing out there, but it's still just the atoms that make up the universe, or that there's someone who's created nature and who's behind it. But in both cases it's not able to be argued against that that the created world and nature is so much more powerful than simply humans. Although if you're just in a more like upscale part of your country or whatever,
wherever you are in the world, and that you're soon wherever you are in the universe as we travel. We're not. Nobody's gonna listen to this by the time we're interstellar travel. Sorry.
That's okay. If you're used to AC, if you're used to just being connected globally, by the internet and whatnot, and if you're not going camping, or if you're not going to other countries where that isn't just the 95% of your day, where you're in a controlled environment, I guess is what I'm saying. When you're in an uncontrolled environment and you're faced with the reality that you're almost powerless against what nature could possibly do to you or around you, that I think on one hand there's nature has all this power, but then on the other hand nature has all this beauty, that both of them point to the fact that there's something beyond just us and our ability to recognize. Anybody can recognize the objective power of nature, let's say, and pretty much anybody should be able to recognize the beauty side to it, the aesthetic value, which I think that gives perhaps more of the draw towards eternity, like what we were originally talking about.
But the what do you mean? This is a new episode. I don't know what you're talking about now. No, I might still just combine them together in an editing process. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was thinking about that, so I almost zoned out, and then I was like, wait, he's talking about the force of nature. That's when I made some weird comment in the middle. I'm like, force of nature. Yeah. Just to make sure I was following.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I would also add that the draw that's provided aesthetically towards something outside of ourselves, right? We can... It's hard to explain. You have an ability to find pleasure in aesthetic appeal, right? So, like that's the sunset or the light breeze or you know, and you know that like this is good, and you're like, wow, you know, I really love life.
Yeah.
And then you have the violent storm, and it's like, wow, I really love life, and I don't want to die right now, right? But I'm not loving life right now, but I know I love life because I felt the breeze. And so I think that speaks to like our vulnerability, and like we're not just we're nothing at all like, how do I frame this idea? If it was left to the forces of the natural world outside of organic life, it would be like Mars.
Yeah.
There could be water, there could be, you know, storms, there could be dirt and rock everywhere.
Yeah.
And with the Earth and the tectonic plates shifting and all this other, you know, stuff, it's very destructive to life, like, except for water and oxygen, you know, happening to be here with magnetic poles and atmosphere, and, you know, shielding us from solar radiation that would kill us.
Yeah.
If it was, you know, so it's like, okay, the natural world itself is not hospitable to life in a lot of different ways, through violent action or just through its nature, you know, radiated, like radiation. Like rocks radiate death to us on certain, you know,
really?
Certain rocks. Yeah.
Okay.
That's where we get, you know, radiation
Okay,
from.
sure,
so it's like they, what is the kryptonite? No, I don't know.
Like uranium.
Yeah, uranium. Thank you.
I
couldn't think of it.
I don't know what uranium looks like.
Neither do I.
Okay.
Look it up.
Should we look? Yeah.
Yeah, look it up.
Okay.
While we're at it. So, but the point being, you know, like lead. We know what lead looks like. Hold on to lead long enough.
Maybe like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like a rock.
What's up with that? Or like lead, it's poisonous. If you hold it long enough, you're gonna die. So, which you know, the vulnerability of who we are, and the fact that we exist in the first place, is usually one of the strongest evidences for authorship of life, right? Like that God exists and has created the world in such a way as to enable the provision of life through it.
Yeah.
You know, like this earth it just happens to work. That all the elements that are cruel and violent toward us just happen to like give us a gift where you can fit in this pocket, you know, of the universe, right? Seems a little intentional to me. Yeah. So, but I think that's kind of where like the natural world teaches us about God, is that even in the violent storm, the fact that you're experiencing it and you're consciously aware of it should signal to you that life itself is unique, because without someone giving you the opportunity or the ability or the strength or the wisdom to see, you would be a rock on the earth, like, and just blown around by the wind.
Yeah.
And because I guess what I'm trying to avoid is getting into the argument, well, it exists, so something had to make it. A rock can exist, and did something have to make it? Maybe. Yeah, probably, if you want to get into like that logical reductio ad absurdum kind of if it exists, then something has to make it exist. But what but the rock would never be aware of itself to know that it exists. And that's actually, even like the evolutionary scientists that are atheistic, they're like, the miracle is that we experience it at all, right? Like, not that it was created, it's just that
we
like,
we recognize
that we recognize it. Life is like this blip in the universe that is probably like an accident to them. Whereas we're like, life, like if we break it down into like some of the weirder esoteric ways of looking at it, it's like we are the universe experiencing itself, right? You've probably heard something to that effect in your...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we are. Like, we're part of the created universe, and we're experiencing the universe.
Okay.
Right? So, that's like the most atheistic way I think you can look at it.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Like... But for the universe to experience itself and be consciously aware of itself, and yet, as if you want to go that route, if the universe is aware of itself and finds itself aesthetically pleasing, but also is afraid of its own violence.
I see what you're saying.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, there's some dynamic of emotional experience that tends and should, I believe, lead us towards a spiritual connection and, ultimately God and God, his own revelation through Jesus. Like, that's I would continue down the you should see God this way. Not you should see God this way, but like you should hopefully see God through it. And if you arrive there and follow my reasoning, you would arrive at Jesus. But that's that I think after the general acknowledgement of God, it becomes increasingly difficult to like get people to see that God would embody or descend or concentrate or empty himself into just a little speck in the universe. Downsize from the all-loving God to I'll just be a little grain of sand in Jerusalem somewhere. That's kind of hard to get people to follow there.
But yeah, it's certainly, well, there's a bunch of things I could say right now. But yeah, I guess just quickly, the incarnation in itself, we could go on for a long time about that. But even that speaks to, hey, here's a physical representation of someone who is well beyond all of this, but who chose to reveal himself through what the physical, visible world is. So I think just like tying back to, let me think for a second. Yeah, because there's some good things you're saying. The fact that we're aware of life, both the aesthetic beauty as well as like the danger involved in life itself and like nature around us, is coupled with then recognition that, okay, some things are good or beneficial, other things are not, and beyond just like, okay, some things please me and other things like give me pain, there's also like mixed together with that is recognition that there's some type of standard that lets us know that, oh, this is something that is quote unquote good or this is bad. That then again speaks of something beyond just, if we were just particles flying around and didn't have either we didn't have consciousness at all, or if we were conscious but didn't have any, I think the fact that we're able to evaluate life and matter and the dynamics, like relationships and all this, that we're able to recognize, we're able to recognize patterns in life that are good or bad or beneficial or harmful, both for like our physical existence, but also then now that we're involving like emotions and relationships, that there's clearly things that are good for us or that aren't, or just even like the idea of fairness, which is ingrained in everybody. I would say those things, which are just seemingly parts of nature, how we as humans work, are pointing to a greater reality that you can't just derive from the natural world. Like if it's dog eat dog, and if it's just like survival of the fittest or whatever, that how can it be better or good if one species like kills another? Like how do we get these ideas that there is something better or worse? Because otherwise, why wouldn't you just let anybody do anything? You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's some value in being aware of living to whatever degree, even in like the animal to the human animal.
Okay.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like all things that are living tend towards life. Like they.
Okay. Yeah.
Like yeah. There's no. Not every person. Some people are, they're not quite on that page. They hate their lives or whatever, and or they hate other people. But most things that exist are because we want to live and find comfortability, and community is based around that.
Yeah.
So that's it's interesting that like we could. Well, like I said, like the human animal, but usually we look at like animal patterns as part of the natural world.
Okay.
But we're clearly not doing just an animal pattern, right? We've done something different in the human model to where we build the walls that we build. We manipulate the environment. We adapt to the environment better by putting on clothing and things of that sort. So, while it is a natural response, it is also a distinct way that we behave in the natural world, which I think is also another suggestion of like, okay, well, the difference between us and a beaver that makes a dam is that our dams are huge. And they're not just to like, keep a little backwater. It's to provide water for millions of people, right? Like, and people have nothing to do with us necessarily. But we know that through their benefit, we all benefit.
Yeah.
Right. And understanding that interplay of society.
Yeah.
It's not just a thought, it's an emotional thing, which I guess is in the realm of thought.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay, sure, whatever.
But, at some point, I think to be, like, intellectually honest, you can either walk away from or toward, like, this experience of being unique in the universe, this experience of being unique in the natural world, this experience of being emotionally aware, at some point you have to say, like, we're not just natural. There's something supernatural just about the fact that we exist, in this way.
Yeah.
Because I would concede if I was a rock and I was in a cold, dead universe, I would concede that there's no God. There's probably you could probably make a mathematical argument somewhere but I'm not a rock. You know, I'm aware that I'm not a rock.
Right.
You know,
right.
I'm capable of doing these things, and I experience intense emotions of love, and I care about people that I have nothing to do with. You know, like I it's not just about me and my own. It's about, you know, people that I don't know as well, you know, to care for. So so I think all those things point to God more so than, you know, like an equation.
Okay.
Or a material object that I can hold. Like yeah, there's certainly nothing that I can hold and go like, this is God, or this is clear proof that God. But when you combine the experience of life together,
okay,
I really do find that.
Yeah. And I think like we can probably wrap up, but there's some, and this would probably be a thing unto itself, but
I'm writing these down.
But there's something about because we were talking about in light of us being not just like a rock or an animal, but that we have. I mean, we were just kind of hinting at it, I guess, more towards the end, but like spiritual beings who are recognizing these things in the physical world. But there's even something inherent in anything created at all. So even just the rocks or just the trees like plants or animals, that those, then when you're looking at in the light of these are created things from the creator, that those things in themselves, perhaps at the very least poetically, if not to some other, you know, dimension, are also in their own ways like worshiping the creator. You know, perhaps in the ways that in their existence or in their like the ways that they serve a purpose, and or in like spiritual ways too.
There's actually an interesting comment that Thomas J. Ord made at the little lecture yesterday. He said something that I think I would have thought of, but I definitely never verbalized it, was that like God loves the rock that and he's using it in this example of how this family died because a rock was flipped from the road by a semi-truck tire and hit this person.
Wow.
But his point being like that God loves everything, but he doesn't exert control, and so he can even love the things that he's created, even the rock and like everything down to the cellular level, things like this table, you know, like God loves it. It's part of the world he created. And yet, you know, it can be flipped up by a semi truck and kill, you know, but God's love won't control the rock, you know, and in that case, I think I think Ord would continue to say that, like, in any case, but, you know, I did ask him a question about miracles, and maybe we could get into that next time.
Okay, sure.
Because he had an interesting answer, but and so that's, you know, the natural world and how we view it.
Yeah.
Yeah.